So the purpose of this short video is to introduce lecture 31 of mcs360 Introduction to Data Structures. We will cover better sorts, better than quadratic sorts. So sorts were quadratic because we compared every element in the sequence with every other element in the sequence. So with a better sort we will actually try to avoid this. So shellsort is one of the methods that I will illustrate. And shellsort will avoid this comparison. So we will take a sequence of 10 numbers to illustrate this. So here are the numbers, and we will actually improve insertion sort. As you may remember from last time, insertion sort was actually quite bad when the smallest number, and here the smallest number is 10, when that smallest number is all the way at the end, because then we have to insert it and shift all the elements. Now, with shellsort, it's good to actually, when you re-simulate this, to think of our piece of paper as neatly partitioned into columns, because we would actually want that the number 10 that's all the way at the end there moves up a little bit sooner without having it to compare it with every other element as well. So how do we do this? Well, we break this up into subsequences using what is called a gap 5. So we will write down the numbers, but now we will write them down where we have a gap between two numbers in the same sequence. So we will break this up into smaller sequences. Here, smaller sequences of size 2. So we have the horizontal lines that define the sequences. So, and now we apply insertion sort on sequences of size 2. So why is it size 2? We started with 10 numbers and divided them up with a gap of 5. So I will insert 44 and 48. So that means that I swap. I do not have to swap anything for the second sequence. And I'm also quite well with the next sequence. Here I swap 17 with 31. And then you can see that our smallest element actually moves up. Our smallest element has actually 10 has moved quite up. So I will write down the sequence what I have now. To prepare for the next step. So in the next step we will be using a gap 2. So I write 44 and 50, 18, 17 on different lines. So now I will apply insertion sort on sequences on two sequences. So I have my first sequence, and here I have my second sequence. So I will apply insertion sort on sequences of size 5. And I will show after every swap that I do, after every insert that I do, I will show the evolution of the sequence. So I start with 44, I insert 18. Then I'm inserting 10, so our smallest number is now up front. Then 1844, I do not have to do anything with 55, so I will not write anything. 31 gets inserted. That gives me the sorted sequence, the sorted second sequence. Then I sort the second subsequence of size 5, starting with 50, inserting 17 into 50. So I copy the numbers in the sequence, just to illustrate the evolution of how the sequence gets modified. We insert 48. And then in the last step, I have to insert 22. Well, it's the last step, as you will see, that then the sequence is sorted. So I'm almost at the end of the board, but I'm also almost at the end of the method, so I will write down the sequence. So actually, for the computer, the sequence is always there. So for the onboard simulation, I write down what we at this moment see. So we have this sequence, and now actually we apply gap 1, which actually means that there is no gap, but we apply now insertion sort on the entire sequence. And as you see, the number 10 is already at smallest, is already up front, and you see that I do not have to do anything until I hit 44. When I meet 44, I need to insert it. This is when the sequence is changing. And that's actually the last step that I have to do. So I'm at the end of the board, I actually have my inserted sequence. So what shellsort is doing, it is actually avoiding that you have to compare every element with every other element. So that is the reason why quadratic sorts were actually quadratic. And it's also in insertion sorts, it's avoiding that you have to do a lot of shifts. So that is one of the better sorts. You have already covered heap sort, so I will not talk about this. The other method is actually merge sort. Another better method will actually apply divide and conquer. I will also not say much about this. So the slides actually have the larger picture, and also, as always, the C++ code allows you to run as many examples as you like. That is it.